Mhm. Okay, let's go. Let's do this.
Go.
Just gonna prepare my things for the timekeeping.
All right, live stream is up. Hello, Eric. How are you?
Hi there, how you doing?
Very good. And yourself?
Very good, very good.
Small business burn.
Hello, Arlene.
Hello. Rename. Okay.
Hi there.
Hi, Charbel. How are you?
Good yourself?
Very good. Very nice to meet all of you. I think we're missing one more judge, and that's the complete panel. Participants should be arriving at around 2:59:3. So until then, guys can take it easy and yeah. Is this your first day judging for EngCom at this competition?
Yeah, it's the first time for any of these competitions for me. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I was here last year, but it's my first time this year.
Okay, nice. Glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
There we go. We got our fourth judge.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Hi, Maurice. Very good. And yourself?
Very good. Sorry for this delay. I had some connection issues.
Oh, no problem. All right, so it looks like we have the whole panel here. Now we're just gonna wait on all the participants to enter the room before entering the main room. So they should be arriving shortly, within 5 minutes. So do you guys work in industry, or are you part of like are you a professor at Concordia, part of academia?
I'm just saying, I'm in industry, but I'm actually part of the group that created this case at L3
Oh, great.
Harris.
Okay.
Cool. I used to be a student at Concordia a few years back. So I've seen EngCom kind of grow. I currently work as a consultant in digital transformation at Deloitte. So
Wow.
it's nice to be able to support.
That's so cool. We're so happy to have you at EngCom 2022.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I met Bombardier.
Yes, Arlene. I think
Yes.
I recognize you from the meetings with Jérôme and Hassan. I think it
Okay, good.
was we had a meeting. I think
yeah.
in January. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I used to work in the aerospace industry as well, so I know Joe actually from L3.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, when I read the case, it's not too far from me, even though now I'm in a different field.
Okay. Oh, really cool. Yeah, Joe's part of our board of directors. So I work with him quite a bit because on EngCom I work in the corporate relations department. So we talk with companies and we get them to sponsor and see what kind of opportunities we can offer them. So Joe helps me out with like revising the contracts and going over what we should offer. And he's a really great guy. Like I love working with him.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So how long has this competition been going on for, this EngCom?
So this is our 9th year running EngCom. At first, it started much more locally, like with Concordia students, even some universities in Montreal. But we have managed to expand. We have universities now. We have a team from Ireland. We have a team from Cairo. We really have an international reach now. We also have a lot of teams from Canada, the US. So it started in 2013, I believe, and we've been keeping it going. So it's been really great.
Good.
Yeah. Hello, Renew Consulting. How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Very good. And yourself?
Good, thanks.
All right. So I will be adding the last participant. All right. Safe to say the whole team is here?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. First, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Joseph. I'll be the presentator for today. So I'll basically be describing how we're going to break down the presentation period. This is Alexander. So he is the timekeeper. So whenever you're presenting, he will be holding up signs that basically show how much time you have left in your presentation. So make sure to look out for that to keep track of where you are. So to basically break it down, we're going to have a few minutes for setup. So you guys can start sharing your screens. Then we're going to have a 15-minute presentation period, followed by a 15-minute Q&A session with the judges. Then I will be splitting the judges and the participants into separate breakout rooms. The judges will have 10 minutes to deliberate amongst themselves. Then there's going to be a 5-minute period where the judges can input their scores. After that, I'll be joining everyone back into the main room, and there'll be a 10-minute period for feedback. So I just want to make sure that all the judges have access to the judging sheet where they can input their scores. All right, perfect. I'm going to double check that you can share screens. All right, perfect. So Renew Consulting, whenever you're ready, please start sharing your screen and tell us when you're ready to begin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ready?
Everyone ready to go?
Yep.
Perfect. So hello and welcome to our presentation on day 2 of the ENGCOM competition. We are a multidisciplinary team of students consisting of myself, Elena, Uzoma, Mate, and Robin, who have been tasked by L3 Harris to come up with an AI-driven solution to increase efficiency, allow the company to deliver products and services at an accelerated rate, and to take the current data and technological landscape into consideration in our solution development. And I will now pass you over to Mate.
The post-COVID economy is a difficult one to operate in for L3 Harris. The global supply chains have been decimated. A combination of factory shutdowns, shipping port congestion, shipping container shortages, a volatile fossil fuel market, a shortage of haulage drivers, and skyrocketing inflation rates have meant that procurement of parts and components now takes months. The increased competition in the industry pushes the company to trim all excess and forces them to have the leanest workflows possible. Competition means that the costs and performance are essential to success, and there is no room for error. Constant changes in the tech industry has meant that companies need to continuously invest in new technologies. Our solution looks at solving these problems in a cost-effective and timely way. We propose to use a predictive machine learning model to develop a streamlined resource management platform that outputs predictions for things such as customer demand, maintenance schedules, training schedules, costs, materials, supply chain analytics, staff scheduling, and more. We aim to bring as much information as possible to the business in order to make decision-making more streamlined, create a lean warehouse environment, reduce waste in workflows, and to ensure the correct materials are being used for the job. MAS are already successfully using predictive analytics for a range of purposes, so it is safe for us to assume that they have a large pool of data to use, the infrastructure available, and a skilled workforce to implement these changes. I will now pass you to Uzoma, who will take you through our solution.
Thanks, Robin. Our technical solution involves the use of automated AI software. AI allows for the overlapping of information between ISS solutions. Automated AI processes allow for regular refreshers, training programs, and help to maintain schedules of fleet. As seen in our next slide, there are several of our ISS solutions will be interlinked. The next slide shows a few of the overlapping integrated service solutions. Training integrates with fleet and program management to secure a rigorous training schedule and to ensure all the workforce is knowledgeable in all areas. Modification and upgrades integrates with maintenance and repairs, which allows for the suggestion of better, newer, and more suitable materials, parts, and tools for reparations. It also integrates with supply chain management to allow for the modification and upgrades in materials and parts as required. It also allows information based on the new materials and allows us to calculate lead time, pricing, and delivery charges. Maintenance notifies the end of tool life as scheduled, which will allow for the integration with supply chain management to notify when new parts are required. The engineering solutions will interact with supply chain maintenance, modifications, and upgrades. The AI will also allow for the performing of calculations and allow for the automated custom-built solutions. Our data integration testing process. We will implement application program integration. This allows two applications to talk to each other and record their scenarios. To verify and validate this AI, we will input the correct versus incorrect data to ensure that it does not give incorrect results. The architecture used for our data integration will be ELT, extract, load, transform. ELT involves extracting and loading of raw data from all ISS solutions into target data lake or cloud data warehouse. This is ideal for implementing our AI and our machine learning and predictive analytics. The benefits of our AI data integration is allowing better collaboration between ISS solutions, which will allow for better workflow and constant improvement. And this automatic flow of information will positively affect L3Harris. The autonomous nature of AI learning means the ever improving of this process. AI will also allow better insights regarding the autonomous sharing of information across all services and better organization, and give L3Harris the competitive edge to focus themselves on their primary goals and provide better services to their customers. And MAS is already used for predictive maintenance, interpretation of text, grouping of similar ideas. Therefore, L3Harris can seamlessly transition into the use of data integration AI. For the supply chain, we recommend implementing machine learning and to make use of predictive analytics to check stocks in the warehouse and available stocks for order, and to predict any other factors which will affect the supply chain. Machine learning combines multiple data sources from news to supplier information to allow predictive analytics to be implemented. We will also use the order method to ensure the correct inventory volume will be given at any given interval. Next, I will pass you on to Elena for the implementation plan.
So we recommend that L3Harris adopt the CRISP MLQ framework for implementing this solution. So CRISP MLQ is a methodology based on the industry standard for data analytics projects and has been adapted for the specific challenges surrounding machine learning projects. It comprises 6 phases. 1, business and data understanding. 2, data engineering or preparation. 3, machine learning model engineering. 4, quality assurance for machine learning applications. 5, deployment, and 6, monitoring and maintenance. For each of these steps, the CRISP MLQ framework provides guidance and best practices for the development of the project. The resources needed to support this implementation are skilled personnel such as data scientists and machine learning specialists. There are commercial machine learning as a service platforms available that the business could utilize, such as Google Cloud AI, Microsoft Azure Machine Learning, or Amazon Machine Learning. So this would outsource all software needs and most of the hardware needs. So staff members would need only to be provided with a computer, screen, a keyboard, and a mouse. So our implementation timeline is carried out over the next 3 years to fully implement AI data integration. In 2022, data will be inputted into the AI and the AI features will be engineered. Supply chain AI and machine learning will also be implemented. In 2023, the modeling, evaluation, testing, and verification of the AI will be carried out, and in 2024, the AI will be fully integrated. Do you want to take this one, Uzoma?
Sorry, next I will pass you on to Mattia to do the business plan.
Structural savings and revenue projections. The company has already their business model, which is business to business. We are not changing the business model, but we are proposing more efficient way of business. The company will be using less resources and will be more profitable. There are two main categories or forecasting methods. Quantitative forecasting, relying on trends and historical data gathered throughout company's history, while qualitative forecasting is largely based on estimations, business expertise, industry knowledge, and feedback like surveys. While we don't have access to the financial information from L3Harris, a survey by McKinsey and Company shows that on average, manufacturing and service operation companies report that their costs are reduced by between 10 and 20% and their revenue increased by between 6 and 10% after adopting a predictive analytics model for their business. There are two main categories. Resource management benefits. So what are the benefits? Our AI automated process with regular refreshers for training programs will enable the workforce to stay up to date and to ensure that no one missed the license renewal. It will also regulate the maintenance for the fleet. Even a small maintenance can have a downside effect if it's not handled well and on time. For example, if there is an aircraft maintenance not scheduled on time, waiting time could be extended for weeks, which is not efficient and productive. With a real-time maintenance, a fleet manager will know well in advance when the problem will arise and when to schedule the maintenance. So the maintenance will be as low as possible and will prevent reactive maintenance. Integration with supply chain management will notify when new parts are required. By identifying the source, tracing, and recognizing the trends and its patterns, future trends will be predicted, and with predicted trends, we can predict costs. Having data-driven decisions will quantify the costs and benefits. It will predict recommended training programs, as well as parts for the maintenance. It will ensure for the condition of the equipment to be monitored in real time and will reduce unexpected and catastrophic equipment failures by more than 50%. It will secure rigorous training schedule and ensure all uploaded data is relevant and formatted correctly. And this ensures the data can be managed and reused. And with the number of formats and structures being used across the platform, it will fit all the users' needs. It will check and notify us when published documents are dated. Modification and upgrade process will help the business by keeping them updated about new materials, parts, services, which enables the company to offer the customer a product with the high quality for low price. Integration with supply chain management will ensure all modifications and upgraded materials and parts required. New material sources will be input into supply chain to calculate lead time, pricing, delivery charges, etc., and will save time and boost the effectiveness of the company. I will now pass you on to Robin to discuss costs.
Thanks, Mattia. Firstly, we will look at the potential investment costs we have identified. As mentioned previously, there are several choices for a machine learning platform. As L3Harris already utilizes AI, it is likely they already have a machine learning infrastructure in place, but for costing purposes, we will assume they don't. Google Machine Learning Platform prices by the hour and has a range of prices depending on what function you are using the platform to perform. Prices range from $3.65 per hour for training the algorithm to 40 cents an hour for the use of their CPU. For the purpose of this proposal, we are going to assume a training schedule of 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and an additional usage cost of $76,000 for any further development environments used, giving a total of $107,974 for the machine learning infrastructure. Hardware needed for the employees to connect to the machine learning environment, we estimate a laptop costing $2,249 for a MacBook Pro and $500 for a screen suitable for a high detailed analysis. In addition to these costs, there are labor costs for the data scientists and the machine learning specialists. We will assume that this company already has these in their labor force and their salaries are already included in their current overheads. We will, however, add an additional $200,000 to our estimates in case any further personnel needs to be hired in order to cover the increased workload. For the purpose of this proposal, we are going to assume the project has a consistent level of effort, which means that the investment total would continue through the development of the resource management environment, which we estimate at 3 years. As such, our total initial investment figure stands at $926,671, or $308,890 per year. Once the platform is developed and running, the costs incurred will be similar, as the subscription of the machine learning platform will continue as before or may reduce as the need for capacity reduces. The labor costs would be expected to rise with inflation or any performance-related bonuses. A major risk we have identified is that if an unprecedented event happens again, that it would create unreliable predictions in the model, which would need to be retrained with new data, thus prolonging the time until the benefits can be enjoyed. We were able to identify several financial opportunities for the company due to them implementing our solutions. In summary, what we are proposing is to take the data that already existed within the company and use it to develop the resource management strategy by using it to create a machine learning AI model which can predict all aspects of the resource management process. This concludes our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Maurice, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I actually thought you'd take the lead, but
yeah, I can.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So thank you very much. A great presentation. It's nice you got through all the all the steps of what we asked for and where we wanted to go. I guess I just had a question on your resource management. Could you go through a little bit more on what the tool means to do if you got that far in your research? What data do you think it should pull together, and what the real time, like day-to-day output of that tool and how people use it?
Sure. So we envisage this as being a platform that management would use, and it would generate reports for the management based on basically whatever it wanted. So the supply chain managers would have supply chain reports, sales managers, sales reports, such and such. But what we envisage it doing is taking in the historical data and the current real-time data for things such as weather, economic conditions, fuel prices, etc., and take all those in and process them and create specialized predictions based on what the company needs. Honestly, what we envisage is that it could be customized based on what the company needed, whatever it wanted, that it could take the data in to learn, to teach the algorithm and learn and give more accurate predictions based on resource management across the company.
Very good, thank you.
So one of the things that did stand out to me was, in fact, your labor costs. I did like the fact that you guys had somewhat of an explanation for it, but this is a 3-year basically transformation program. And I'm not convinced that $200,000 is gonna cut it. But I'd like to give you guys the opportunity to kind of elaborate on your resource plan, specifically for the labor, and how you plan on allocating those $200,000.
Sure. So for this is something that came up in our last presentation as well. We are not in the US, and we genuinely have no idea about the labor environment what salary is like, living costs are like. We genuinely have no idea. So we are very much going on what we could find on Google. That $200,000, what we would envisage spending it on would be the salary for 2 extra personnel. But I am very aware that $200,000 is going to get you very far with regards to a data scientist and a machine learning specialist. And also it doesn't cover things such as, healthcare benefits and so on and so forth that also come with having additional personnel in your labor force. So yeah, like we fully hold our hands up on this, that the labor resource is not it's not as good as we would like to. We didn't have time to investigate it any deeper than we already did. So it is a very, very loose estimate on the $200,000.
All right, thank you.
Yes, first of all, thank you for your presentation. I have a question regarding the training of the system. And usually when it comes to AI systems, there's a retraining that needs to be occurring over time. Did you factor in the costs for those and the implications and in terms of feedback you would get from the data that is being used to reintegrate those into the system to improve it?
So for the costs of training the algorithm, we just looked at the actual running costs of it. As for looking forward to other potential costs, no, we didn't. It's partly due to the fact that we weren't sure what would be involved in it, and partly due to the fact that we are very much guesstimating on costs at this point due to not being in the same economy. So, yeah, the costs are a little loose on that, and we apologize for that.
So good presentation. I had a couple of, I just need some clarification. So you're suggesting the AI software to go into the supply chain and the maintenance part of it. Is that it, or was there was a third, right? No.
Yeah. Well, our idea is that the AI software will go into the supply chain, and then it will also go into the ISS support systems and interlink the relevant sections to each other so that information can flow and that like all the relevant information will be where it needs to be.
Okay.
Those places.
And it'll be commercial AI that you're suggesting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more question from me. I think did every judge ask a question? I believe so. All right, just one more from me. Where do you think the biggest impact would be? In which part of the business? We talked about supply chain. We talked about aircraft maintenance. Various things. Which sector of our business do you think would be the biggest impact?
I would say definitely. I would say the supply chain, in regards to when the system receives feedback from other areas, it will know whether to pre-order or order things on time, and just have the system process everything as fast as possible so that the company can deliver the goods, products, and services as needed.
And that's actually an element that we ran out of time. We did intend to cover in our presentation with regards to the financial benefits that would come from things like having an AI in the business, identifying opportunities, and in the supply chain would have the most impact, where you could see, predict fuel prices, predict shipping costs, etc. And you could take advantage of that and also identify supplier trends. So you could see where your supplier, could renegotiate things, or you could renegotiate pricing with your suppliers, or would it be worth changing your suppliers, etc. So the supply chain is where we would envisage most of the impact coming from.
So I have one more question. So there's a statistic that comes to mind when I hear you guys' presentation. Something around 30% of large scale, only 30% of large scale transformation programs of this nature are able to stay within the timeline that was, allocated at the beginning of the program and the budget that was allocated. That's part of the reason why I actually noted the labor cost thing, because for me, immediately I'm like, okay, well, that's one thing that will either extend the length of the program, the transformation, or increase the budget. So, you guys mentioned that obviously the labor cost thing is something that you guys wanted more time to kind of like investigate a little bit longer. But have you guys thought about mitigating the risk of either a significantly higher, cost of implementation than the budget that you guys initially presented to us, or a longer implementation timeline? Because that's going to affect the value that you're actually bringing to your client through the solution that you proposed.
No, absolutely, and that is one of the financial risks that we looked at as well. That the fact that projects don't go to completion, or the fact that you could invest all this time and money into something and it's actually not, the predictions aren't accurate. So I suppose to mitigate that, we would look at things like the fact that there are commercial resource management systems out there, and it's just a case of kind of building on what's already there and making it a bit more streamlined and a bit more efficient and really tightening it up.
Right.
So I suppose we're not coming from a place of zero. We're coming.
So
Sorry?
Before you continue, Robin, I'm really enjoying your answer, by the way. This is not a knock to you. I'd very much like to hear someone else on your team express themselves on this. But I like the direction in which you're going. Anyone else, please jump in.
Well,
Go ahead, Uzoma.
Well, in regards to the timeline and not going past the timeline, the company already uses AI. So we are assuming that there's already employees that work in that field. So in terms of that, we assume that the company is already using AI. So it shouldn't, like Robin was saying, we're not starting from point zero in terms of that. And in terms of salary, I know we were estimating, but we wouldn't assume that the company would need to hire many more employees as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Those are really the two main things: costs and timeline. And I thank you guys for taking the time to answer my question. Thank you.
Should you guys see a reorganization of the company to be able to accommodate this change? Would the company have to reorganize itself and have AI focals or something along that line to interpret the data and manage it and bring in the new processes?
Yeah, I think we would assume there would be a few changes needed, say, just to add in more employees, such as, say, the AI analyst. But we would also hope that the current employees could be trained in it to understand it, so there wouldn't be a huge change in employee hierarchy and things like that, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
I would like to follow up actually on this question. And have you given any thought on the impact on current employees who would be using the system and how that would impact their jobs? I mean, there would be some maybe resistance in some cases, some change management issues. Did you consider any of that? Could you please elaborate on it?
So from, sorry, go.
Sorry, Gwen. No, you're fine.
No, Elena, go.
I was just going to say that I don't think they would be too resistant to it, in that we would hope to kind of implement a training plan so that you don't have to have a very high level of expertise to understand it. That we would try and kind of keep it to the bare bones and the bare minimum of need to know basis. So even those that are very reluctant, it'd just be a small portion of their day would maybe be dedicated to learning and understanding it. And I suppose as well, we would like to show them the benefits of it as well, in that like it's making the company more efficient, it's being more productive, it's also then that reflects well on them, and it boosts morale and it makes them, I think, a bit more keen.
And just a point I wanted to add to that as well, like we are obviously, we're students and we haven't worked in a huge variety of companies, but we are under the impression that every company uses some form of resource management. You know, that they have some sort of a system to manage their resources. So again, this would be something that we could look at integrating to make it look similar, a similar interface, similar method of generating reports and such like that.
Thank you.
Eric, I think you're on mute.
I am. I was just going to ask. Thank you very much. I was just going to ask how much time we had left.
So there's 1 minute and 20 seconds left.
Oh wow, that's a lot of time. Well, I think I'll just thank you guys for putting this together and answering our questions. Is there anything else from any of the other judges?
Yes, thank you once again. Thank you guys for taking the time. I think it was a good presentation. Looking forward to formally debriefing with you guys shortly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for the presentation and for the question and answer period. So I will be now moving the participants into a breakout room and the judges into another breakout room so the deliberation may begin. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Alexander, do you want to go to the judge deliberation room?
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, good.
So I go to the judge deliberation room. I tell them that, well, I'll tell them that they have 10 minutes, and then when there's 5 minutes left, they have to
Yeah,
input the scores, right?
Yeah, they have 10 minutes and they have an extra 5, right? For
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Perfect. I'll go there.
Thanks so much.
Wait, I don't see breakout rooms in my options.
Wait, let me try to send you there.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, cool. All right, see you soon.
Hi, Joseph. Yeah, so you can close the breakout rooms.
Okay, closing now.
Perfect.
Thanks.
No worries.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining back. We will now begin the 10-minute feedback period.
All right. We wanted to start off just kind of introducing ourselves. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm head of technology and R&D at L3 Harris. So we created this case, and thank you for addressing it. The rest of our team, do you want to just say hi?
Yeah, I can go. I'm Arlene Beiswinger. I'm a section chief in engineering at Bombardier, where we design the wiring for the business jets interiors.
Yes, hi, Charbel Khoury. I manage a program, government-funded program to help construction companies get into the digitalization of their industry. And I used to be working in the aerospace sector, so this was very close to me in terms of the case itself. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maurice Gwakum. I am a management consultant at Deloitte. I work specifically in digital transformation. Not too long ago, I was sitting in you guys' seats. Quite familiar with EngCom, so it was very nice to see your presentations.
And that's us. So I guess I'll go back, start with the feedback if nobody minds. So I thank you for the presentation. I thought it was quite well done. I just like to give a little bit of input on there. I think you understood the business. You understood the question, which is probably a very important, is the most important thing to start this. I think I could see probably you needed to, since this question was casting such a wide net, it was just, it's so broad and you needed to focus. I think it might have been better to pick a quick direction and then focus your resource on it. And it's just about planning in the middle of these cases where you need to split up tasks, get the job done, and focus on the end result, which is the presentation at the end, early in the process. So I think that's the biggest feedback is, focus on your deliverable right at the beginning, make sure it gets done, and then worry about the details in between. I think you had some good justifications and rationalizations, but I think you would have gotten a little bit more out of it had you, just organized maybe your time a tiny bit better. But we enjoyed the case. I'll pass it on to somebody else.
So since I'm usually going second in this,
oh
round,
yeah, we hadn't just
we're keeping the order. Yeah. So yeah, it was great to hear you guys speak, because I thought all of you speak very clearly and concisely. Like the answering of the questions was good. The presentation was good to see it the way it went around. Probably when I read the problem statement this morning or this afternoon, whatever, I found it was kind of vague. And This time I'm giving criticism to Eric, but anyway, the way I would have approached it was, I think he mentioned it, of just choosing one of the things, because you tried to address all three, and then it just became too much to solve in 6 hours. Was impossible. But maybe it wasn't clear. I think maybe you guys thought you had to answer all of the questions, but focusing maybe on one might have helped a little bit. Well, I was just wondering, did you guys like practice the presentation before? How did you guys go up? We have a bit of time to ask these questions. How you guys go about working on this? Like, did you split up the domains, or?
No, we very much worked together the whole way through. What actually happened was we did practice the presentation, but we practiced on a previous version. So the version that we
so
had
that's where
today
there was a little bit of a
is the previous version. Yeah,
Okay,
there was a
okay.
disconnect. So that was an error on our part, that we didn't re-download it after we'd been through it. And as well, because we had a bit of shakiness in the middle, we lost a bit of time, and therefore we ran out at the end. We were, really cutting to the time to the wire. So any kind of variation on that really left us without some time. So yeah, that was something that we need to kind of keep on top of.
Yeah, no, but that's okay, because I understand. I us we always have our last minute doing presentations. It's annoying, that 5 minutes, and all of this is all very stressful. And the way to try to keep focus is often to try to think about what you're saying. Oftentimes we'll start reading our notes and we forget about what we're trying to say. So sometimes it's just to have the minimum on your slides, and then just talk about each point. Just have them as like pointer, like the old days when we had cue cards and we just like write one word and then we just talk about each of those words. Could have just helped the flow of the presentation, but everything was there, so it was all good. It's just for the next time. Thanks.
That's great, Arlene. Thank you so much.
I guess I'll go next. Well, thank you, really, all of you, for the presentation, and thanks for all the effort you put into it. On my side, I would have liked to have more details on the technical aspect of the solution. But again, like my two colleagues mentioned, given the nature of the case, it wasn't necessarily easy how it was presented. But nevertheless, I think it would make sense to just go into a bit more details into how you're planning on achieving the technical aspect of it. And maybe just one feedback in terms of the presentation. I noticed you were reading your text, so just make sure that you still remain as natural as possible when you're presenting, and not forget that we're actually seeing you when you're reading, because in some cases you were literally, your eyes were down, you're not looking at us, and that's that doesn't look good from when someone is trying to follow your presentation. So just be careful with that next time, please. Thank you.
So just quick show of hands, who's an engineering student? Just raise your hand if you're more on the eng side. And then your comms, I'm guessing you guys are the other side, hey? Robin and Matea, awesome. So first and foremost, I'd say that the structure and organization of the slides could have been a little bit better. I think you guys definitely had all of the information that you could have had given what was asked of you, but I think you could have done a better job of just organizing that information to make it easier for us as judges to digest. So a tip moving forward, tell us what you're going to say it, and then tell us what you said. And I think that would have helped us to kind of like remember exactly where you guys started and then where you guys finished. The second thing was just in terms of like you're all clearly very bright individuals. I think some of the, especially when it came to the implementation plan that you guys had, the implementation logic in certain aspects could have been a lot better. And I think you guys know this. I think if you guys had maybe another hour, it would have been a very different presentation. But that's just something that you should keep in mind. Also, there were a few gaps here and there in the presentation, nothing too notable, but just find ticks to address these gaps. Maybe it's like someone scratches their head and then the next person jumps in or something like that, right? I think that would make a huge difference. And then last but not least, I think your answers were all really, really great in the Q&A period. One thing I will say though is that try and avoid saying that you're not familiar with the market. Just because the idea is that obviously we know you're students, but we're supposed to be playing this game where you're industry specialists and you're this consulting firm that's giving us all the best solutions. And if I were giving you my money to solve this issue, I wouldn't, the answer I'd expect from you wouldn't be like, oh, it's not our market, you know? And oftentimes, especially for large scale transformation programs as such, I can speak in the case of Deloitte, for example, we oftentimes get resources from across the world. So like I'm working out of Canada, I'm in Montreal, we have, you know, specialists that come in from Portugal to support us. So that's something to keep in mind moving forward. But yeah, overall, you guys did a great job. You should be proud of yourselves and best of luck.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Renew Consulting, for your presentation, and thank you to the judges for the Q&A session and for the feedback. We really appreciate it. So, Renew Consulting, we're excited to see you solving the 12-hour case tomorrow, and we can't wait to see you there.
Thanks again,
very
everyone.
much.
Thanks
Really
again.
great feedback.
Bye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck to you guys tomorrow, eh?
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Thank
Ellie.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
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 All right. So I just want to ask a quick question. Do you guys want me to leave a bit of time before they start presenting for introductions, or do you want to leave that for the feedback period? Just if you have a preference.
I like it in the feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
I prefer it at the beginning because then they know what.
Man.
Because it's usually you have an idea who you're presenting to.
Presenting. I don't mind.
I don't know. Like normally, if you would be going into a boardroom, you would be presented to the board. So it's just to make it. I can be swayed.
Yeah,
So can I.
Like, yeah, does anyone have a good bribe? Please, I will
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with Arlen. Like, it can come in the end, but I think that does make sense.
Okay. So do you guys want to try at the beginning this time? Would that be okay with everyone? All right. Perfect. So I'll let in the next team, Crossroads Consulting. So they'll be in shortly. I'm going to do the breakdown just so they understand how the presentation is going to go, like I did with the other team. And they are being admitted now.
No. Don't unmute yourself. I got it.
Oh, there it goes.
There we go.
All right. Well, hello, Crossroads Consulting. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to hear your presentation. My name is Joseph. I'll be the presentator for this meeting, and Alexander Zhu will be the timekeeper for the presentation. So while you're presenting, oh yeah.
We just weren't hearing you on this end for a moment when you first started.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, all seems clear.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm Joseph. I'll be the presenter for the meeting. Alexander Zhu will be the timekeeper, so make sure to look out for his cards. He'll basically tell you how much time you have left during your presentation so you can manage your time better. We have 4 judges on this panel, and they wanted to do like a quick introduction just so you guys get to know each other before the presentation begins.
Yep. Very good. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm from L3 Harris, and I'm the head of R&D and technology. And my team wrote this case. So thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Arlene Beiswinger. I'm section chief at Bombardier. My group does the designs electrical wiring for the business jets, for the interiors.
Hi everyone, I'm Charbel Guri. I'm currently managing a government initiative to help the construction industry digitize itself. And I used to work for the aerospace in the aerospace sector. Thank you.
And hi everyone, I'm Maurice Guacum. I'm working currently at Deloitte in our digital transformation team, consulting practice. Not too long ago, I was doing case competitions like all of you, so this is a good throwback for me today. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, well, Crossroads Consulting, thank you for being with us today and for creating your presentation. So I'm just going to give a quick breakdown of how the presentation period is going to go. So you'll have a few minutes to set up, basically just to open your PowerPoint, start sharing your screen. After that, you'll have 15 minutes to present your solution. Then there'll be a 15-minute Q&A period. After this Q&A period, I will split the judges and the participants into 2 separate breakout rooms. The judges will have 10 minutes to deliberate on their thoughts. Then they'll have an additional 5 minutes to input all of their scores. Once this 15-minute period in total is up, I'm going to bring everyone back into the main session, and there'll be a 10-minute feedback period.
Sounds good.
Great, thanks.
Understood.
All right, perfect. So whenever you guys are ready, you can start sharing your screen and just tell us when you're ready to go. Thank you.
Connor, you're on? Yep. Awesome. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I can see
Looks
that.
good
Yep.
here. All right.
Great.
We good to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Very good.
Let's do it.
All right. Good afternoon, L3 Harris Board of Directors. We are Crossroads Consulting, and today we're here to advise you on AI integration in your product and service suite. We're here to help you develop AI use cases for military aviation systems. So again, to reiterate, we're going to be working towards maximum efficiency in aviation technology design, manufacturing, distribution, and maintenance with the help of more heavily integrated artificial intelligence. But before all that, we'd like to introduce ourselves. So my name is Joe Consorti. I'm an expert in finance and economics.
My name is Connor McCormick, and I'm an expert in computer science.
My name is Olivia Mead, and I'm an expert in environmental engineering.
And my name is Will Jeffries in mechanical engineering.
So a little background on L3 Harris. They're based in Mirabel, Canada, and the main purpose of what they do is to design and manufacture defense military systems with a focus on aviation, especially for this case. And their priority is to prioritize emerging technologies within this field.
So the challenges that we're seeking to address are in 2 broad categories, one in supply chain and the other in technical. Now on the supply chain side, we understand record levels of order backlogs, which is also common throughout the aviation technical supply industry, as well as the widely distributed supply networks of the modern world, and rising pressure on costs and production to keep reducing costs and increasing the production capacity. On the more technical end, we're seeing increasingly elaborate demands on the side of servicing, as well as the need for effective air crew training and demanding more and more capability at lower costs on the technical end, as well as in supply. And our consulting team was tasked with recommending applications, particularly of artificial intelligence, to help solve these problems. So the solution that we're proposing today is referred to by our team as artificial aviation intelligence, using a combination of AI tools designed to help train personnel, predict supply chain management, as well as to design, modify, and engineer new technical platforms.
Our AAI solution includes the supply chain issues that Will just mentioned, as well as increased production, and the predictive aircraft maintenance that is in the current state has been ramped up in our new solution, and we also reduce costs overall. The first step of this solution is to train personnel. So within this, this section of the solution, the personalized trainings will be able to address company and individual knowledge gaps. For the company, this could look like specific skill sets that they would like individuals to have and maybe need more background on. This could also be on an individual level as well. We would also have 24/7 employee support chat, which would use machine learning to provide more accurate information as time goes on. In a case study with IBM, they use a similar support chat mechanism and get roughly 700 questions asked on it a day. The third piece of this personnel training would include a virtual reality segment. So this could be for maintenance and support personnel, but as well as future aircraft training. So as you can see below, the data we would gather would be employee personas, as well as the required skill set that L3 Harris would require. It would go through some data cleaning, and then the personalized training, support chat, and VR training would all be accomplished.
In this next set, we'll be looking at the predictive supply chain management augmented by artificial intelligence. Now, this is a growing field, and there are predictions by, for example, an analyst in Massachusetts that by 2023, 50% of all supply chain forecasting will be automated using artificial intelligence to significantly improve the accuracy of these predictions. Now, our proposal is a two-pronged approach. One, using a predictive model AI that will allow for optimizing the near-term allotment of parts, the distribution of manufacturing orders among your suppliers, as well as helping to balance the fulfillment of client requests in order to complete those orders more effectively and on time. Meanwhile, a longer-range supply forecasting AI will help to anticipate future supply line trends and recommend actions for improving resilience to those market fluctuations. Now, these models will be developed and operated within L3Harris for security, and we will be partnering with both our clients as well as the suppliers, all the way from the raw materials through transportation up to manufacturing, in order to gather the data that will accurately inform our model. Now, this provides value back to our client with more on-time service and delivery, as well as benefiting our suppliers by more intelligently distributing component orders over time and across clients in order to mitigate surges and lulls in demand. Now, the outcome for L3Harris is to help reduce order backlogs by, we're going with a very conservative 1.5%, to shorten wait times for components and respond to shifts in the market. Based on similar implementations in related manufacturing sectors, we are expecting a between 30 to 50% reduction in long-term forecasting errors, as well as up to 65% elimination of lost sales due to lacking provider capacity to fulfill those orders, as well as a 50% reduction in the need for standing inventory.
The final facet of our solution is to design, modify, and engineer different platforms. In order to do this, we are going to utilize something called evolutionary robotics. So evolutionary robotics is a relatively new field in the study of computer science. It's an embodied approach of AI where the brain and the body of a machine are equally important. So essentially what that means is that typical neural networks, that being AI, that's the brain of a machine, but we also want to incorporate the body into this and have this sort of recurrent loop, this feedback loop where we can optimize these robots. So in order to do this, you would simply take a simulation and generate a subset of robots, and then you would discard the bad robots and make mutated copies of good robots and repeat the cycle until you have the optimization. This sort of replicates natural biological processes. This is similar to Darwinian evolution. And as you can see here in this image, this is a very unintuitive robot design. It's something that humans would not be able to come up with easily, but a machine, on the other hand, can do this. So let's look at a case study by NASA. This is the NASA Tensegrity robot. And similar to the last robot, it's a very unintuitive design. They needed a robot to traverse one of Saturn's moons, Titan, and the evolutionary algorithm, which is in evolutionary robotics, was able to come up with this design. So it's able to land safely without a parachute, and its controller uses a continuous time recurrent neural network to move. This is just one example of an actual real-life case study within the field of evolutionary robotics, but there would be many others that L3Harris would be able to take advantage of. On a somewhat similar note, but also slightly different, we would recommend using what's called generative design, which is used for optimization and parse design. So what you do is you put in your constraints, whether it be material use, cost, weight, or strength, and there are many others, and essentially you ask an algorithm, you ask a network to design this in a way that it solves those constraints in the most optimal manner. And this can be done using, there are various programs out there that you could probably purchase and use, or you could build it from scratch using what's called a generative adversarial network, which is like a zero-sum game in which two neural networks compete with each other, trying to come up with the most optimal solution. And the benefit of generative design is that you could significantly cut costs, and it's also an unsupervised learning environment. So once you build the algorithm and you run it, you can let it run by itself and come back much later, rather than actually sitting there and supervising it yourself. So some of the applications for L3Harris within these two departments. So evolutionary robotics would improve manufacturing efficiency. There was mention in the case about how autonomy is driving the floor, and it's much needed in the future to sustain this competitive advantage. And this could be done by upgrading and optimizing the current autonomous machines and perhaps even adding more through the use of evolutionary robotics. Additionally, this could lead to potential future business ventures. As I mentioned previously, this is a very new field, and there are lots of opportunities. And while the current contracts that L3Harris is trying to pursue from the government don't really encapsulate anything within evolutionary robotics, there very well may be some in the future. Generative design could cut part costs by up to 20%, although we don't anticipate it will be that high. But additionally, you could use generative design to modify current platforms, and this would significantly improve the engineering design. So now let's take a look at the implementation timeline of all three of our steps.
So the first step would be to train personnel. This would start by hiring people to perform the software design and analytics of the proposed pieces of this part, which would begin tomorrow. And then moving forward, we would continue to implement this, like with the chat box. The more time allowed, the more accurate it could be. And with the virtual reality segment as well, there would need some time to be able to develop the software for it, but we see it to be hopefully fully involved by 2025.
So for the predictive supply chain management, we wanted to provide the first 6 months as a time period to form the team, whether that means hiring or bringing people in from other parts of your current business. We know that you already have expertise in the application of artificial intelligence. And then 2023, we would see launching the initial predictive models, while 2024 would be the longer seeing forecasting models on markets.
The redesigning of platforms, the first few months would be allotted to hiring people that are familiar with both evolutionary robotics and generic redesign. And then from 6 months to mid-2023, this would be building those algorithms and really refining it and coming up with it. And then the remainder would be spent on just fine-tuning and maintaining and perhaps even integrating anything that is found. So to wrap things up, our AAI solution uses AI to train personnel, predict supply chain management, and while also designing, modifying, and engineering our platforms for optimization. To see how this is incorporated on the business side, I'm going to pass it to Joe.
Thanks, Connor. Let's dive deeper into the existing business model as well as our projections. So currently MAS, the aviation systems component of L3Harris, is operated in 4 sectors. There's being defense aviation, commercial aviation products, commercial military training, and mission networks. As you can see here, as of fiscal year 2020, that represented $3.448 billion worth of revenue, which represented 90% of total company revenue. In addition, revenue compensation, in terms of the way that sales were structured, 71% of the customers were the United States government, including those in foreign militaries that we are arming, as well as 65% are prime contractor contracts, which means we are the buck stops with us essentially in terms of the design and manufacturing of the products. So with that, you can see supply chain and cost elimination through artificial intelligence would be highly profitable. Looking at the business model, again, it all starts with R&D, which of course feeds into products and services. Some of the examples you can see there, ultimately ending with the customers who are the Department of Defense, commercial airliners, etc. So savings and efficiencies, what Will mentioned earlier, $21.7 billion worth of company-wide backlog. We'd be taking off roughly 1.5% worth of that with these improved AI efficiencies over your current baseline model, as well as organizational effectiveness, especially in terms of the supply chain, being able to organize that a lot more smartly with artificial intelligence, as well as modulating materials acquisition and manufacturing based on demand. We also chalked up a quick revenue projection here. You can see a 2% year-over-year increase in revenue as of 2022 to 2023, which readily stables out over time by 2025. Ultimately, a lot of this is due to the AI making it a lot more efficient to fulfill orders and overall increasing the capacity to fill backlog orders. So nonetheless, these revenue increases justify the development and integration of artificial intelligence into the products and services that MAS provides.
Now let's take a look at some of the costs associated with the AAI plan. So to give a brief expenditure breakdown with these three-year time horizon, about 60% of the costs associated are mainly hiring costs, that being various software engineers, software developers, and field experts that can sort of train people and incorporate the software that we want to build. $2 million is allocated towards R&D costs, that being the AI research and also testing of various algorithms. It takes a while to incorporate it, so we have that opportunity cost of being time and also an absolute dollar amount. This is sort of the industry standard for R&D costs. And lastly, we have maintenance costs. It costs money to maintain the software, and this is just sort of an overzealous estimate perhaps, but we want it to be extra conservative and make our total cost approximately $6 million over the course of the 3 years. But if we look at total cost savings by implementing our AI solutions, by just cutting raw material costs alone by a mere 2%, it yields a total saving of $9.4 million. And this comes out to a positive NPV.
So let's take a look at some of the risks and mitigations posed by our plan. We weighted this on a graph against severity as well as probability that they'll occur. The first, being severe, highly unlikely, is some task proved too demanding for an AI takeover, right? Full AI usurping is impossible. In that case, you just take a more mild approach with some human involvement, very subtle implementation. The second risk that we identified was prolonged time to deployment for AI. Obviously, this is very wide scale, this is very sweeping, and we're working on a 3-year time horizon. In that event, we have the flexibility to delay the rollout of AI, extend the implementation timeline, and make R&D more flexible. And the third risk we viewed being the neural network overfits the data, which occurs pretty frequently, doesn't accurately predict it. In that case, we tinker with the shape of the hidden neurons. So, to wrap everything up here, to remind you of our vision, we're working towards maximum efficiency by implementing artificial intelligence, which we believe to be the future of aviation. We'd like to thank you so much for listening, and we now open the floor to any questions.
You hit the end. Again, this is Eric Peterson. I'm from L3 Harris. Thank you for the presentation. It was very well organized. You hit the end at the end, which is a good accomplishment, and seemed to hit all the points along the way. I guess my first question there is, if you were to work with a more limited budget, where would your priority hit? Where do you think we could make the most impact on our business with a much reduced budget for development?
Yeah, I can tackle this question. So from our preliminary research, we determined that maintaining and predicting the supply chain would probably be the most beneficial because, again, it has the most use cases out there currently. So it's most likely to actually be successful. And additionally, with lots of the supply chain volatility we've seen recently and uncertainty, it would be nice to be able to accurately forecast that. And that would be where the budget would go to first, and that would be the top priority in our opinion.
Okay, thank you.
So good presentation. I like the 3 concrete ideas you guys were putting forward. It's good. So I was just wondering though, with the evolutionary robots. So where specifically would you use that within the L3? Like what specific use case would you have for that? Like in manufacturing, maintenance, or?
Yeah, I can tackle this one again. So the evolutionary robotics would mainly be in manufacturing. From the case, we were able to determine that most of the automation is on the manufacturing side. And evolutionary robotics typically generate machines with like cognition, if you will. So it's autonomous or not like remote. However, there could be use cases beyond just the manufacturing floor, which I mentioned briefly, because it's a very new field. And there could be a world in which evolutionary robotics are used in maintenance. However, the technology currently isn't there yet, but it's definitely a possibility.
And this technology, considering it's very new, would you outsource this or would you have L3 doing this internally?
Right, that's a good question. So it's kind of hard to outsource something like this. So we figured the best route would be to hire like a field expert. And granted, there aren't that many because like it is a very new field, but hiring somebody, and perhaps we would have to teach them a little bit about the field, but hiring internally would be the best way to go. And that's what we did when we calculated our costs. We assumed we would hire an expert in the field.
That's a great point, Connor. Ultimately, with something like evolutionary robotics, a technology in its infancy, we view it as more of a competitive edge for L3 Harris to hire an individual who's already technically advanced in the field and then develop our own knowledge base within house. We view that this being an emerging technology, if we can hit the ground floor, if you will, in terms of the technology here, then this could be another competitive advantage for L3 Harris moving forward.
And if I could chime in as well, my understanding of L3 Harris also is that one of the major products of the company is in communications equipment, and radio antenna were actually one of the first applications of generative design, and there are many examples of this from NASA as well. So that seemed like an applicable fit for many of the products that L3Harris is offering.
Good, thanks.
So I don't have any questions. I have more of a clarification, and depending on how you guys go about this, I might. But could you just walk us through your implementation timeline once again?
Yeah, so the first part of the solution was the training of personnel. So like with the other prongs as well, the first like 6 months or so would be to hiring people to be able to make this software, like the personalized learning, as well as some of the software for the virtual reality and the chat box. And then moving forward, there would be a rollout of this implementation starting most likely with the personalized learning, as it is kind of the highest priority, and then moving into the chat box, and finally the virtual reality, which would just take the longest for this particular segment.
And then in terms of the artificial intelligence for predictive supply chain management, this is a slightly more complex project. So we provided for 6 months for establishing the team, whether that's hiring or reallocating human resources within the company. And then the first 6 months of that would be in developing the initial predictive models that are able to work with shorter term allocation of resources and demands more immediately. And then after that is the second rollout of the longer term forecasting predictive artificial intelligence for supply lines.
Yeah, and the last part for redesigning these platforms, again, this first node represents just hiring new people, and then from there, a year will be allocated towards actually building the algorithms within evolutionary robotics and generative design. And then after they're built and tested, then it would just be sort of a widespread incorporation and perhaps even more R&D going into seeing where these can be used elsewhere.
I think I remember you guys mentioning sort of like hypercare software maintenance period. Did I hear that wrong, or is that part of your plan?
Could you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
So I think I remember hearing you guys talk about a maintenance period within your plan. So like one phase is implementation, and another phase is maintaining the software that you need to be implemented, and sort of change management in a sense. Did I hear that correctly, or is that just other ideas floating in my head?
I believe that was an ongoing account for each of these, that after the initial release, they would be ongoing evolution and development of each of these models with training supply line as well as redesign.
Okay. All right. That's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, hi. Thanks for the presentation. I have a question regarding the costs. If you don't mind going back to that slide, please. I'd like to understand more how you got to those numbers. What kind of estimates in terms of number of personnel and so on?
Yeah, I can tackle this question. So within the hiring cost department, we sort of split it up in the three facets of our solution and allocated a certain number of various experts. So for instance, I believe in the training personnel, there were 2 software engineers that were being hired. In the supply chain, there was a program manager, and there were software developers for them. And in the evolutionary robotics, there were 2 software developers and 1 field expert that was hired as well. And the numbers come from industry standards, just average salaries in the area. And yeah, those were the hiring costs. And R&D, again, it's also just an industry standard, just an estimate based on both time and capital being spent over the course of 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Maybe just another technical question, if you don't mind, in terms of the supply chain, the AI aspect. Did you get to decide on what kind of data you will be looking to use in terms of your sampling, and what would be the focus on?
Yes. So in terms of thank you, Connor. In terms of the data for input, the primary ones that we were concerned with were on the supply inlets side, our manufacturers providing us with their manufacturing capability as it shifts throughout the year. shipping and transportation, similarly, what their capabilities are to move goods and material throughout the year. And then in terms of material availability, what the prices are like, where the fluctuations may be coming in, and what their current availability is. And then on the other end, on our in-service support clients, they would provide us with their upcoming needs, expected demands, possible surges in orders, and this would be fed through data cleaning and then into our predictive model and supply forecasting. Now, some ancillary data that could be used to augment that would also be larger overall market trends, which may influence either the short term, but more likely the longer term supply forecasting.
Okay, thank you.
Where do the numbers come from on that graph? You say that there's going to be 65 fewer lost sales. Is that based on what?
Yes, this was an article on demand forecasting in the age of AI and machine learning. Analytics Artificial Intelligence, published in 2020. And we were doing a quick industry survey of past applications of these tools, and these were some of the numbers that we had come up with in applying with manufacturing and related industries.
Good, thanks.
Absolutely.
Do you guys mind going to your risk and mitigation slide and just talking us through that as well, please?
Absolutely. So I can dive into this a little bit more in detail. Obviously, at the time, having to go a little bit quicker to fit within that 15 minutes. But essentially what we did was we weighted it against severity, so how bad this would be in terms of hindering the plan, as well as probability, so the likelihood that it's going to happen. The first risk that we were able to identify was actually the middle risk, and that's prolonged time to deployment for AI. Chances are with something like this, and as Connor spoke about, very, very new technology, deep learning algorithms, in terms of hiring, that's going to be the first hurdle, and then it's going to be uphill from there. So it's going to be quite difficult in terms of developing this, which is why we're allocating so much capital towards it. But the idea behind mitigating this risk would just be to extend the timeline. One of the nice things that, well, you came to us initially with this 3-year timeline, and so the way that we've gone ahead and structured it was within those 3 years. However, should the AI take longer than expected, we do have flexibility in terms of research and development and time to actually deploying that. Because ultimately, one of the things that you want to make sure about is bringing the best possible product to your end user. And given that AI is the cornerstone of what we're doing, we view this as probably the most important and intensive. The most severe risk, but the least probable, is that some tasks prove too demanding for AI takeover. Ultimately, across these 3 years, and more so in the beginning, we're really working to get as much brain gain, if you will, into L3Harris, so hire as many experts as we can, shift existing people in-house in order to make sure that every single task that could be automated, could have AI introduced to it, can. And so should some task prove far too difficult after testing, then incorporating AI into those products and services in a more subtle way. That's essentially our mitigation here. Ultimately, there will be hiccups that are encountered. You won't be able to fully automate certain things. Humans are still going to need to be involved at a lot of junctures. But the idea here is that we would still retain some level of human involvement while scaling back the AI. And then the third risk, which we identified, which we view as highly probable, but not necessarily severe, because something like a neural network is very, very scalable. Day by day, computationally, microprocessors are becoming more and more efficient. And so in terms of actually developing a neural network based on data, this is something that is accelerating in its capacity to happen by the day. And mistakes are bound to happen, especially at the outset. So there's going to be a lot of tinkering and a lot of adjusting in order to make sure that the predictions the neural network gives us are actually something that we can really gnaw on and use. And so at the outset, and in all likelihood for a prolonged period of time, in all likelihood a year or so, there's going to be a lot of tinkering.
I'll cut you off right there, but thank you for your answer. Quick question. This is more on like the ethics and change management side of things. You know, with the AI solution that you guys are going to be implementing, have you guys thought about how you plan on addressing you know, changes within your team structures, restructuring of teams due to just the lesser demand of certain roles? Do you guys give that any thought?
We think that primarily that this will strengthen the roles between teams, and especially with our focus on the personnel training. This is not meant to necessarily replace humans with AI, but make their jobs easier, the humans' jobs easier, and hopefully make sure that teams are able to work together in a more functioning capacity as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's it from me.
Thank you.
All right. I don't have anything further either. Do any of the other judges have a comment before? I think we probably have 30 seconds, 20 seconds left.
That's too stressful with 20 seconds left.
Yeah. Clap. Well, I'd just like to thank you guys for presenting to us, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you to Crossroads Consulting for the presentation, and thank you to the judges for participating in the Q&A session. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the judges and the participants into separate breakout rooms. So if you get an invitation, please accept. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Joseph, can you please put me in
the judges?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, see you soon.
See ya.
Hey guys, thank you for the presentation. It was amazing. Now the judges have 30 seconds left to deliberate, so they'll be joining in really shortly. Thank you.
Oh, I was muted. You're right. There we go.
And I have an interview at 5:45. It says for that time.
L3 Harris.
They call me right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're like, wow, that personnel is just, we gotta have it.
That woman's got it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you for rejoining. So the feedback period will begin now. Thank you.
All right, I guess I'll start again. Thank you very much. This was enjoyable to watch. We really thought you were very organized and definitely had run through this process before as a team because of your apparent organization. So I guess just some quick comments. I again we liked the fact that you kind of presented us to us. That was neat. It really showed confidence in speaking. You put down the roles of all the people very clearly and then followed them, which was nice, and evened out the presentation amongst all your people, which really shows that you have a strong team, not just a single strong player, which is what you look for in these competitions. I guess I'll just put a point to work on, and then maybe I'll have some more comments later. But I really liked the generative robotics discussion, and it showing you're looking at advancing technology and well ahead, which is exactly what that's exactly what people are looking for. One thing I would suggest as going into further competitions, when you introduce something like that, I felt it might have looked like not necessarily an afterthought, but not like a fully baked idea. I would have liked to see why you're presenting this to me before presenting it to me. I didn't gather the context. And I know, the time isn't there, but I didn't gather the context of the discussion until right at the end. And then as you answered Arlene's question, you filled in the rest. And again, I know time constraints and stuff like that, but I think from a very, very good presentation, that could have just been streamlined quite a bit. Just a quick question. Well, I already asked questions, so I'll pass it on to everybody else.
No, ask your question.
Oh, I was just wondering.
Now you've got us all curious.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess my question was, is this something you guys are into? Is that something that you had done some research prior to the meeting and then brought it to the presentation, or was that new based on your research today?
No, this is actually something that I'm kind of interested in. I'm in a class about evolutionary robotics, and I don't know, I sort of thought like generative design and this field could maybe be used when obviously the discussions about AI came up in the case. So I thought it would be interesting to utilize potentially.
And it's something that I've been very interested in for years, especially between biomimicry and the applications of that in evolutionary learning as it was applied. So Connor and I were digging into that a little bit and bouncing ideas back and forth.
No, it's very good, and
mostly for the expertise.
Yeah, and it was evident in the presentation. I was like, okay, they probably just brought this from some other knowledge and tossed it in there and tried to work around it. But as you do stuff in a competition like this or in real life, you really just have to make sure you quickly tailor it to the audience, so that great idea, really neat. Instantly, how does it work for us as a primary? But great idea, great innovative thought. I liked it.
Really appreciate your feedback too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was great. It was good, interesting for us to learn something new, actually, and to show us some stuff that at least I didn't know. These generative, what was it, evolutionary robotics and generative design were new things to put in. So that was good, because I found a little bit with the case, it was vague as to what you had to do, and you guys were able to come up with three new ideas. So that was good, and the presentation was good. Just one, Olivia, make sure you answer questions in these things. Speak up, take your place. just wanted to throw that one in there, because nobody's going to give you time. You have to take your time. Make sure you answer your bit of the questions.
Yeah,
that's it.
Thank you.
Good. Because you know what you're talking about. Your answers were clear. Good. That's it for me.
Thanks, all of you, for the great presentation. Really, you did very well, I think. The flow was very good, and as Eric mentioned, I mean, it seems that you have been through this process before, and it does show. So keep sticking to the same recipe that you're using, following that structure for the presentation. I just have one technical comment regarding the Zoom presentation. I had trouble following who was presenting, because I would only see Will the whole time, because you guys were using his microphone. And so in some cases, I couldn't figure out who was talking, because unless I would click on the participants and see which microphone was, not even them, actually. That was difficult for me to follow who was speaking. So that's the only comment. Aside from that, really, I mean, you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I think I have an idea of it, but like, can you just raise your hands if you're business students? Okay, interesting. And so Olivia and Will, you guys are both the Eng students?
Correct.
Connor, do you have like a minor in computer science or something?
Yeah, I do.
Nail on the head.
That's what I suspected. And then what university are you guys in?
Quick question, are we allowed to say? Because they...
I don't think that can be disclosed at the moment.
Can't be disclosed? Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. Are any of you part of a case competition committee?
I don't believe so.
No.
Really? Okay. Well, good job. You guys did a really good job. I have nothing but good things to say. This is just questions from my point of reference. But please don't hesitate to connect with us after the competition. Of course, I thoroughly enjoyed what you guys presented to us today. It was very comprehensive, both on the business solution side and also on the technical competence of the solution that you presented. So you guys should be proud of yourselves, and best of luck for the rest of the competition.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. I hope that after the competition we can give you a reveal of who's from where as well.
Yeah, no, are you guys all in the same university, or is it different universities?
Same university, yeah. Same room right now, actually.
Yeah. I have my suspicions, but anyway, I'll let it.
Is it Harvard?
I believe the universities will be revealed at the closing ceremony. So if everyone attends, we'll be able to figure out which team comes from where.
Very awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have anything further. Was there any further questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. This was enjoyable. Really liked your organization, your spirit, and teamwork on this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Crossroads Consulting, for the presentation, for answering the questions, and listening to the valuable feedback given by our judges. We can't wait to see you tomorrow for the 12-hour case, and we wish you a great night.
Thanks.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow, you guys.
Thank you.
See you.
See ya. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so that concludes the presentations for today. There was 2 teams in this division, so that concludes this the meeting. If you guys are going to be attending on Friday as judges again. We can't wait to see you there. And we hope you really enjoyed the presentations today. I know I did. I think they were both great. Thank you so much for attending EngCon.
All right, thanks a
Awesome.
lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
All
everyone.
right, thank you. Have a great
Cheers.
night.
Bye.